We have a timed event this evening, so we'll now call this public hearing Tuesday, February 11th, 2020 to order. I will now read a statement under item 2.1. This public hearing is being convened pursuant to the terms of the Local Government Act prior to consideration of Transmountain Expansion Project, Contractor Yard, Temporary Use Permit Application, TUP 19-01. At a public hearing, any person present who believes that they are affected by a matter being considered shall be given an opportunity to be heard on the matter contained in the proposal. Members of the public speaking on the proposal should, at the appropriate time, commence your address to this council by clearly stating your name and just your area of residence, upon which you may give us the benefit of your views concerning the proposal. Everyone who deems their interests are affected shall be given the opportunity to be heard at this meeting. No one will be or should feel discouraged or prevented from making their views known. All who speak at this public hearing will restrict their remarks to the matters contained in the proposal, and it is my responsibility as chairperson of this meeting to ensure that all remarks are so restricted. At the conclusion of a public hearing, council may, without further notice, give whatever effect council believes proper to the representation made at the hearing. I understand there was a speakers list circulated?
Yes, there is.
Thank you.
Speakers list.
Under item 2.2, we'll now have a presentation by staff through our planner, Ms. Vicente.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And if there are others that wish to speak at the appropriate time, we'll recirculate another list. Ms. Vicente.
Thank you. The public hearing this evening is for the consideration of a temporary use permit application 1901 made by Transmountain for a contractor yard at 1755 Highway 5, legally described as Block F of the southeast quarter of District Lot 7354 Caribou District. The contractor yard is primarily for storage, pipe bending, and office uses. They anticipate the work to last for approximately 3 years. This is not a workers' camp, and no overnight accommodation is being proposed nor permitted. The subject property is just south of the DeSalle restaurant. I've got a map up on the computer screens here. Transmountain is in the process of obtaining an access permit from the Ministry of Transportation and Infrastructure to access the contractor yard off of Highway 5 through the DeSalle restaurant driveway. So you can kind of see that on the map here. They already have received an access permit to start some preliminary groundwork and preparation. Water and sewage will be trucked in and out respectively. No in-ground water and sewer infrastructure will be installed. Some of our biggest concerns in considering this application are the potential impacts on neighbors, such as dust, traffic, noise, light pollution, as well as potential air quality issues for the community as a whole. Transmountain representatives are here today and will be speaking to this in more detail. Referrals were sent out to a number of internal and external agencies. TELUS and BC Hydro had no concerns, as well as the Regional District of Fraser-Fort George, who asked that we notify all surrounding properties, including those within the regional district, which we did. One referral response was submitted after the report was submitted for the agenda from Northern Health, and they stated that if there's food preparation on site, cisterns for potable water, or wastewater holding tanks, to contact Northern Health prior to construction. And that's all I have.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
2.3, were any written submissions received?
I have one.
Thank you.
I'm going to read out. So this is a written submission from Borealis Geopower. Dear Council of the Village of Valemount, with regards to the Transmountain Expansion Project, Contractor Yard Temporary Use Permit Application 1901, Borealis Geopower Inc. is making a written submission to the Council of the Village of Valemount. Borealis is the owner of a geothermal resources permit located approximately 2 kilometers away from the subject property. We would like to thank the council for the opportunity to provide input into this application. From our perspective, if well managed, the opportunity to site additional Transmountain temporary facilities within the village of Valemount represents a potential economic windfall. However, we are concerned that the village of Valemount is currently well beyond its existing greenhouse and particulate emissions limits, and that any additional industrial activity will only exacerbate this already unacceptable situation. Respectfully, we submit that Transmountain's commitment to abide by proposed local anti-idling regulations is insufficient in addressing local emission concerns and misses the broader opportunity. Additional air quality commitments have been made within the Robson Valley, and Transmountain is working with the village to adhere to all current and future local air quality regulations. We would reiterate our position as expressed in the hearing for the application for temporary use permit number 233 to the Regional District of Fraser-Fort George in November 2019, that there exists an eminently viable and local solution to Valemount's air quality problem. The development of a district heating system using geothermal energy has the potential to provide a cost-effective, non-emitting heat supply for local homes and businesses in the Valemount area. There is an opportunity for the village of Valemount, Transmountain, and Borealis to collaborate on the development of this district heating system. Collaboration would provide the Transmountain with greenhouse gas offsets that it requires as per federal and provincial permit conditions, and more importantly, by sourcing them locally, significantly reducing particulate matter emissions in the Robson Valley airshed. Prior to granting temporary use permit 1901, Borealis recommends that the council consider the local particulate matter emissions that will be added as a result of the entirety of Transmountain's industrial activities. Borealis also recommends that council consider the broader opportunity of the development of a geothermal district heating system in collaboration with Transmountain and the benefits that a renewable energy project would provide to all stakeholders. Borealis requests a multi-stakeholder meeting with Transmountain, the Village of Valemount, Valemount Community Forest Company Limited, and the Regional District of Fraser-Fort George with the goal of promoting clean economic development in the Valemount area. As a certified B corporation, it is our view that a meeting of the minds between all affected parties and the proponent is in the best interest of all stakeholders. It is our view that all stakeholders can and should seek development solutions that support local, provincial, and national energy and environmental goals. Regards, Alison Thompson, CEO and President of Borealis Geopower.
Thank you very much. Item 2.4 will now have a presentation by the proponent.
Hello, Mayor and Council and staff members. Thank you for making yourself available and for hearing our presentation. My name is Jasmine Devick. I'm the community liaison in the Valemount area. And today I also have Colin Carleson with me, who is the Director of Permitting for Transmountain. Today we have a short presentation to go over some of the aspects of this contractor yard and to address some of the issues that Megan had brought up in regards to mitigation methods for nearby neighbors and the concerns that the village has in regards to those things. Okay, so this is the contractor yard that we are speaking of, located in what we call Cranberry Marsh, and this is the site that we propose for the temporary use permit. We understand that the intended use that we have is other than the zoning, and that's why we're here today. This is a very plain drawing and a very small drawing now that I'm standing up here, outlining what the yard actually looks like. I can, if I can work this. Oh, do I have a, oh, it doesn't work on there. Okay, so in the lower right-hand corner of that yard, essentially as far away from the residence on King Road as possible, is where our helipad would be located. That would be used only in emergency situations. We don't have intentions of helicoptering people in and out of this site, but it is as part of our emergency management. Just above it would be our pipe bending area, with the majority of our trailers in the 11 o'clock of that site, with warehouses in the middle and then fuel stations on the side of the property as close to the highway. Oops. Like I was saying, the site's facilities are varied. As you know, we have our stockpile site in the regional district in Cedar Side, but with some of the challenging terrain in this area, we will need to bend some of our pipe, and the storage capacity at the other stockpile site is full. So that's why we're considering this contractor yard and coming to you for your approval. Things that will be there, things like fueling stations, a guard shack. There will be security on site 24 hours a day, the aforementioned helipad, parking for workers that will be at that yard, topsoil storage areas, warehouse wash cars, and of course, Bear Smart waste bins. As previously mentioned, talking about light and noise mitigation, we know that there are several residences in close proximity, and then of course there's just a small highway dividing us from other residents as well, and we fully acknowledge that light and noise could be concerns. We have a number of mitigation tools in place, ones that have been filed with the Canada Energy Regulator. Things like directional lighting, diffusion, coating on bulbs when things being turned off when they're not in use. Some lights may be left on during night hours for security reasons. However, if they are becoming a nuisance and that's brought to our attention, we'll do everything in our power to be able to mitigate that light disruption. So I'll get to a little bit later in our presentation how local residents and anyone in the area can contact us with concerns about any of these categories. Noise mitigation, we'll be doing things like we will be enclosing noisy equipment with baffles, noise suppression on any heavy equipment. Our construction hours will meet the requirements outlined in any applicable permit. As of right now, typical working hours are 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. It could be 6:30 a.m. to 6:30 p.m. depending on the time of year, the light availability. But this is something that we would be more than willing to work with the village on. And work would only take place on Sundays for very critical activities. So work being carried out Monday to Saturday. Sundays, we like to rest too. Dust and traffic mitigation, we know about the air quality issues in the Robson Valley and the importance of starting off with things as simple as dust suppression. We would maintain the access roads into the site. We would clean equipment leaving construction sites, mud, soil, debris, foreign material. We know that they are harborers of things like invasive species and other nasties that we really don't want to be moving from site to site, nor can we move from site to site. And we would be reestablishing vegetative cover at the completed work area afterwards. Traffic management plans, they are on file with MODI. They're MODI approved. We're coming on and off the highway using the driveway north of the property. We would also be making sure that we had notification plans in place to allow residents to be able to make alternate plans. I don't really know how you avoid that section, but maybe if you know that we're going to be moving, the trailers in on Tuesday, maybe that's not the day that you decide to go sledding at Carleena. Getting back to our engagement, and all of the plans that we have in place are our best anticipated ways to ensure that we're not disruptive. We know that sometimes we are disruptive. And so that's why we come here to do things like this and ensure that we are committed to respectful and transparent collaboration. We respect our areas and we know that we are working in your backyard. I am your community liaison. It is my job to be the public face of the project in this community during the lead up and during construction. I'm the point of contact. I'm the person who's gathering information from our project team and our execution team and distributing it as needed and as wanted to council and citizens. And I'm also the one who is taking the feedback should there be issues or concerns. Some of the ways that we talk to residents about what our proposed activity is going to be are things like notifications. We send them out pretty substantially in advance. This is an example of one that we put out for the contractor yard in the Cedar side. They're very simple, they're very easy to read. They typically outline what you may see or hear or the types of things, how you would be impacted. Ongoing communications that we have are things like our website. When you log on to transmountain.com and you get onto our map, it looks like this. It will geolocate where you are. It will take you into your community and it will tell you what types of activities are actually happening, what activities are currently happening, and what future work could be happening as well. So this is a fantastic tool for people to be able to see. And even if you were, say, driving to Kamloops or you decided to go to Edmonton for the weekend, you could see in other areas what work we would be doing as well. We also have an option for email updates. You can sign up for monthly distribution. You can pick the communities that you would like to get more information about. So we're not going to send you something about what's going on in Burnaby if you've decided to sign up for notifications in regards to Valemount. It aggregates all of the information from the interactive map on a monthly basis and gets pushed out to your email. For public inquiries, as I was mentioning, our best laid plans sometimes come up a little bit short. We have an email address, which is info@transmountain.com, and a toll-free 24-hour line. All inquiries are, we have two categorizations. We have an urgent inquiry, which is a status update within 24 hours that we've received it and we are on the ground and we are attempting to mitigate whatever problem that you're having. Non-urgent, which would be like general inquiries or questions not related to construction, you'll receive a response from us within 5 business days. And then I get into the contact us portion. Council had provided several questions to Transmountain in regards to a variety of topics. We crafted a 6-page response, which I know is extensive, but we wanted to ensure that you had all of the information that you needed to make this decision. I know invasive weed control is a big topic of interest. And so we've outlined the 6 elements that we go through, things like prevention, identification, monitoring, our treatment options, and our evaluation of sites where there's invasive species concerns. And then there was also concerns about things like excessive noise and, as the red submission, about GHG and greenhouse gas offsets. Transmountain is regulated to provide GHG offsets for any of the work that we do. I know that in the questions there was an inquiry as to whether or not they could be a locally focused offset. As per our condition 142, the offset projects require very high accreditation. So if there were opportunities like that in this area, they would most certainly be things that we would look at. However, they have to be accredited because they are officially regulated. We have to respond back to our regulators that we've offset these emissions. So I guess at this point in time, Colin and I would be available to take any questions. Is that what happens now? I'm not entirely sure. I'm sorry, Your Worship.
Thank you very much for your comprehensive presentation. So under item 2.5, we'll have questions by council. If if you have any. Councillor Pearson?
Got a couple. Yeah, you definitely covered a couple in your presentation. So one of my concerns is definitely going to be a traffic issue with that one access road, no decel lanes or XL lanes. I'm guessing our biggest traffic issue is going to be during camp setup when you're bringing trailers in. So, that's going to be a concern with the amount of already freight traffic we have on the highway. That's going to be a concern for me. And then once you get into pipe bending, how many trucks a day do you anticipate, like bringing pipe from the lay down yard into the yard to? Is that going to be like several trucks a day, or?
I'll let Colin.
Okay.
On the traffic, we need to receive a permit from Ministry of Transportation Infrastructure on how we manage the traffic. Part of that application is a detailed and comprehensive traffic impact assessment that we're busy working through right now. And yes, we recognize that at that intersection we probably need to make some modifications to manage the traffic volumes in and out. I can't tell you the specifics of the traffic volumes in and out there, but we do recognize that we'll include an axle and decel lanes on the one side of the road in accordance with MODI. So the way that we develop that is we go through the traffic counts, we look at the baseline traffic, analyze how much traffic we'll be inserting into the system, and MODI has a series of guidelines on what type of T intersection you should actually have, and that's depending on the traffic volumes. Right. So we'll be complying with all of those requirements. Okay. I think we're addressing the major volume traffic issues. On the one-time delivery, again, we need to receive a more short-term permit from MODI to be able to manage those traffic deliveries for the construction of the yard, and that is all controlled. MODI will obviously not let us deliver. We may it may be before the axle decel lanes are included. So depending on the timing of that, we'll only deliver in low traffic times. We won't deliver at peak times. That's not the way it's gonna.
I don't recognize a low traffic area in our zone, but okay. Then one more question, then we'll throw it over to somebody else. But containment within the site. Any thoughts on berm, because you are adjacent to a marsh area? I'm not sure how much fuel you plan on having stored. You're going to have sewage stored. I'm not sure what else will be on site, but is there any thought to having a containment berm?
We have an erosion and sediment control plans, and those plans are included in our EPPs, and they define how we protect wetlands. There are, again, you have to look through our rather detailed plans to find those, but there really are, and that is one of the things that we have a process to manage that as well. We'll have environmental inspectors that are deeply familiar with all the plans, and they'll be going on site and making sure that the construction we're doing and the way we're constructing will prevent any damage to any wetland areas that are in proximity of the project. And that's not just for this piece of temporary infrastructure. It'll be for across the whole project. But we do have that background, those inspectors, to make sure nothing goes wrong. If something goes wrong, we do take corrective action.
Okay, thanks.
Further questions from council?
I just have a comment. You answered everything that I had written down, but I just wanted to thank you for addressing and for being community aware, taking our community into account and listening and answering everything. It's muchly appreciated.
You're welcome.
We always welcome the opportunity to be able to provide information. We have a lot of regulations that are very complex, and large and sometimes convoluted. But it's our job to be able to translate them and find the answers to the questions, because we are so heavily regulated. We know that we have a plan for many, if not all, of the concerns. It's just a matter of getting it into a digestible format.
Thank you for working with us.
Absolutely.
One more question, I thought somebody would jump on air quality, but where do we stand with connecting the site to the grid? Because the original suggestion of having a diesel generator running really wouldn't be acceptable for 3 years.
I'm not exactly sure where we are in that process, but that process is underway to connect the site to the grid.
Because I mean, that would be a huge sticking point for our community with our air quality issues to bring you on board and have the generator sitting there for 3 years running 24/7. So
It's something that we heard at our TEP meeting for the temporary worker site at the regional district. We know that council is currently working on a draft of a clean air policy. So we are more than willing to work with the village to determine what that clean air policy could look like, or if there's an acceptable neighboring community that also has a clean air policy, and whether or not we could take from that in order to make sure that we're adhering to the guidelines that you guys would like to see. At that location on Cedar side, we are committing to connect to full power. So we're a little bit slower on this one.
Okay.
But it's our commitment to attempt to connect to full power wherever possible on the project, because we do know that air quality is an issue everywhere, but it's particularly an issue here.
yeah, well, this one's a little closer to most of our homes than the Cedar Side one, so
Exactly.
we'll be looking at it a little closer.
And the same thing goes with idling vehicles and things of that nature.
Okay, thanks.
Other comments? Questions from council? Thank you very much. If you would be available for the next portion to answer any concerns coming from the community, that'd be great. But we have one comment for this evening, and that would be Mrs. Jeanette Townsend of Cranberry Place in Valemount.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. Jasmine, before I start my comment, I want to thank you very much for pronouncing Valemount correctly. If I hear...
Tell everybody who comes to work in this area.
It's Valemount.
Yes.
Yeah, there's too many say Valemount, and this goes back to seeing a 4x8 map in Castlegar at the dam, and it was the map of British Columbia, and they had Valemount on the map of British Columbia. So I undertook for the province and everyone concerned to pronounce it correctly. So thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I live at 1934 Cranberry Place, which is just across the highway from the subject property, and I want it noted that I have absolutely no considerations, I have absolutely no opposition. I'm in favor of the pipeline, and I think former council members are aware of how much I supported the pipeline right from the very start. It's for our well-being, as well as for the protection of the people of the village of Valemount, to have a pipeline with it rather than have all those railroad cars going through here several times a day, and especially with respect to what has happened in Saskatchewan recently, as well as even...
Mrs. Townsend, if you could just
Okay.
comments to the temporary use permit at hand.
That's fine.
Thank you.
Okay, I shall. Thank you very much. So again, absolutely no objections, and I'm fully in support. Thank you.
Were there any further speakers on the list? Megan?
Is there anybody else on the list?
We have a hand up, it looks like.
Eugene Jamin, to reiterate, of Valemount, BC, to reiterate Pete Pearson's concern. We are in a very environmentally sensitive area. That property happens to be adjacent to wetland, which drains into the MacLean, which drains into the Fraser. So spills become even of greater importance to make sure that they don't contaminate the surrounding area. So a real concern that environmental considerations be really treated seriously at this project. That's my comment.
Thank you very much. Did the proponent wish to speak to that?
Thank you for your concern and thank you for expressing us. To us, we, as I was saying earlier, we have a lot of comprehensive programs around spill prevention, and from multiple levels, right down to the way waste material is stored, the way paint cans are stored. That is all crafted in a way to prevent any possible accident from happening, and they all need to be stored in separate areas, and right up to larger spills. There's a significant program to deal with spill prevention. And it's something that we take very seriously. The regulators, all our regulators take it very seriously as well. And every time we have some type of spill event, it needs to be reported up through the regulators, and it's reviewed, and corrective actions are taken, and our work procedures are reviewed to make sure that we're performing correctly to prevent any future spills. So it is something, and that's like I say, that's going from paint cans to larger spills as well. It's all. We needed to make a submission to all the regulators around these and our environmental plans, and they're very comprehensive and cover a lot of aspects of spills.
So, Mr. Carlson, just to follow up there, could you maybe speak to, say, a specific example? So you have a fuel tank. In my experience in other work sites, you'll have like a 1 meter rubberized berm surrounding that containment, so that if there is a leak or a spill, that it is actually contained to that area, which your cleanup mitigations can then take place.
Correct. That's exactly how we do our storage. It is all in these rubberized containers to prevent even the slightest spill, and the waste material is also contained in a similar way, and equipment is checked for leakage of hydraulic fuels and so on, and anything that occurs is immediately cleaned up, and that equipment is taken off site and repaired.
Thank you very much.
If I could just add to that, I live just north of Kamloops, and I know that I live where I live because I like being outside. And I like the rivers that I have access to, and I completely understand that in the Valemount area, the marshes, the hiking trails, the opportunities to be outside are extremely important, and almost a really dedicated ethos of this community. We take that very seriously, and we are very aware of the wetlands. When anybody calls it the property across from the Best Western, I say it's a marsh. So we are very aware of that, and if council would like, we would be more than willing to have our environment team work up a little bit cleaner version of what our spill containment and working in a wetlands area looks like, and then you would have it to be able to provide to anybody in the community that wanted.
I think that'd be acceptable. Thank you.
Okay.
Are there any further comments this evening? For a second time, are there any further comments?
Yeah, my name is George Cook, and I'm from Cranberry Place. And I just want to say that I watched them put the pipeline through Jasper, and very impressed with how well it went. And even today, there's no problem with it, so I'm totally in favor of the pipeline.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Are there further public comments this evening? starting a second time for public comments. And for a third and final time for public comments, I now adjourn this public hearing.